Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll have the roll call. Ms. Schofield, if you would, please.
Alderperson Diaz.
Here.
Alderperson Linder.
Here.
Alderperson McGilvery.
Here.
Alderperson Reekie. Here. Alderperson Touche.
Present.
And Alderperson Yurs.
Here.
Alderperson Steiner and Alderperson Doyle are both absent and excused this evening.
We have a quorum, so we will proceed with the meeting. Next order of business is public comment. Do we have anyone from the public that wishes to speak this evening? Do we have anyone from the public that wishes to speak? This will be the third and final opportunity. Anyone from the public that wishes to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next order of business is approval of minutes from both the April 13th and April 21st meeting of the Common Council. Those minutes were included with your packet. What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Reekie. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? Previous meetings, I should say. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Under Mayor's business, I have two items this evening. And in our packet, there's a proclamation for the 100th birthday celebration, a proclamation for Warren Webster. Warren had what I believe was his third birthday party of the week last week on Saturday. And he was at the American Legion. I had the opportunity to meet with him, and there were several hundred people that went through the doors. And for an individual who's 100 years old, he certainly has a lot of energy, a good sense of humor. You could tell he had a lot of friends, and not only family and friends from this area, but family and friends from all over the country. And I made sure that I told him that my grandfather always said the first 100 years are the hardest, so it won't be as difficult moving forward. But I would like to read the proclamation that I read on Saturday to Warren. Whereas Warren Webster was born on April 25th, 1915, and is celebrating his 100th birthday, and whereas Warren was married to Mary Highland Webster for 65 years until she passed away 8 years ago, and whereas Warren spent 4 years in the Canadian Air Force and then transferred to the U.S. Army Air Corps, where he flew 50 missions over Europe, and whereas he flew the P-47 Thunderbolt in World War II and retired as a lieutenant colonel, and whereas Warren has always been very active in the community through volunteering and community sports, and whereas he now enjoys sporting events for his grandchildren and also loves to read, and whereas Warren is seen as a hero in the eyes of his children and has a true passion and love for life, now therefore be it resolved that I, John Holcomer, Mayor of the City of Verona, along with family and friends, thank Warren Webster for his service to his country and his community, and we wish him a very happy 100th birthday party. And on Saturday, it was the day of his 100th birthday, and it really, it really truly was a pleasure. He is an amazing person, just in the short time that I met him. And I've been told that several times a week he still drives to Madison and plays tennis at the Paula Center. So pretty good for a 100-year-old person. And that was, again, it was a lot of fun to do that. Last week we had our reorganization meeting where we made some, the committee appointments. And tonight we are going to make some of the citizen appointments to the committees that we have. And I will just tell you that all of the appointments that we're making this evening are reappointments. They are individuals that currently have been serving the city, and some of them for many, many years. I always reach out to the people that are currently serving on our committees and ask them if they're interested in being reappointed. With the exception of one person, and I mentioned this last week at our organizational meeting, and that is Chris Zock. And Chris Zock, I'm recommending that we appoint him to the Community Development Authority. And just a little background on Chris, since he is new to committee appointments. Chris and his wife have lived in Verona since 2005. They have 2 children, Adam 9 and Kate 7. Both of them currently attend the Verona Area International School. Chris works for the First American Title Insurance Company, the National Commercial Services Division, and he attended that. Many of you were at that Madison Smart Growth meeting that we had here, and he attended that meeting and expressed a desire to be involved. So I'm going to read through the appointments. Community Development Authority, we have Art Cresson for reappointment for a 4-year term. Chris Zach, a new appointment for a 4-year term. Fitzroy EMS Commission, Nancy Bartlett, a reappointment for a 2-year term. Library Board members, and again, these are the citizen members. Mr. Steiner already has been appointed. Reappointments are Steve Runde, who is the president of the Library Board, and Kevin Knies. For Park and Recreation and Forestry, it's a reappointment of Mike Getz, and that position as the chair of the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Committee, or Commission, automatically puts him on the Plan Commission. And then Paul Curtis, reappointment, a 5-year reappointment to the Police and Fire Commission. I would ask for your confirmation on that but before I have a motion to that effect, I did want to mention that we will be coming with additional appointments to either reappoint or fill vacancies on the Verona Economic Development Commission and also on the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I believe that everyone on the Verona EDC wishes to be reappointed. I'm just waiting for one person to get back to me. On the Zoning Board of Appeals, we will definitely have 1 vacancy. So if you know someone who might be interested in serving in that capacity, please either you get in contact with me or have them get in contact with me as soon as you possibly could. So with that, I would ask for your confirmation of the citizen appointments to the City of Verona commissions. We have a motion by Mr. McGilvray, seconded by Mr. Touche. All in favor of confirming the appointments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. We appreciate that very much, and we will get letters of notification out to those reappointments. Next, we'll move to the administrator's report. Mr. Burns, if you would, please.
Thank you. A couple updates this evening. The Dane County Cities and Villages Association annual dinner is coming up a week from Wednesday, the 6th of May. Mayor Hochmer and I are planning to attend on behalf of the City of Verona. If anyone else is interested in attending, please contact me as soon as possible so we can get the registration in for that. There's also a public officials forum on the subject of how we grow, which everyone is invited to. That will take place on May 15th, which I believe is a Friday, and that's at 8 in the morning at the American Family Center. That is an event that's co-sponsored by the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission, Dane County Cities and Villages Association, and the Mad Reps organization. And then a couple updates on the state budget process. The Joint Finance Committee has been meeting and reviewing several portions of the budget and agencies. They did review the transportation budget, but at this point have delayed action on the local transportation aids, so we're waiting to see what action will be taking place on that. And then the Joint Finance Committee has voted to dissolve the Local Government Property Insurance Fund. However, they delayed the dissolution of that by an additional 2 years. The city, Verona, does use that fund for our property insurance, as do many municipalities in the state. And I also have learned that our insurance carrier for many of our lines of coverage, including our liability, which is Cities and Villages Mutual Insurance Company, is currently working with the Wisconsin Municipal Mutual and the League Mutual Insurance Programs to form a new organization that would provide property insurance coverage for Wisconsin municipalities. They're starting the process of that, and we'll be working to get that in place as soon as possible. We'll be monitoring that and looking at what our options are for insurance. We are anticipating that rates will be going up significantly for the property insurance fund while it still remains in place. We just received a letter today that indicated that that during that 2-year period that it remains in operation, that rates could be increasing as much as 85%. So we're very interested in seeing what other alternatives are out there and what the rates will be for those programs. And I'll keep you informed as we learn more.
Are there any questions for Mr. Burns? Seeing none, thank you. Next, we'll have the engineer, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Linder.
Okay, do you guys have a meeting Thursday with the chamber? Is that correct?
Oh, yes, we do have the chamber is doing their State of the City session. It's an all-member meeting that'll be taking place this Thursday at 7:30 in the morning, and Mayor Hokumer and I will be attending to provide a presentation update on what's happening with the city of Verona, with the city budget, major projects, and development in the city. Yeah, and that'll be at the State Bank of Cross Plains. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Linder.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think Mr. Curtis has told me in the past that as council members, you're also members of the chamber. So anytime you want to come to any of the chamber functions, they welcome everyone, but you are a member of the chamber by being a member of the council.
The city has long been a member of the chamber. I've decided I personally am a member on an individual basis, but absolutely anyone from the council is invited to any chamber event. Good question. Next, we will have the engineer's report. Mr. Gunlock, please.
Thank you. 2 items this evening. The first is Liberty Park Phase 2. The contractor has returned to Liberty Park Phase 2 to complete the street construction on Clarity Street, Laser Street, and a portion of Liberty Drive. This work is anticipated to be completed by June 1st. And the other item this evening is the East Verona Avenue, Lincoln Street reconstruction. Pre-construction conference was held on April 16th. As you can all see, the construction commenced this morning. Work on East Verona Avenue will be completed first. Then there's some curb and gutter on South Main Street that'll be constructed, followed by work on Lincoln Street. The work on Lincoln Street is scheduled to commence June 8th, with all work completed by August 15th. That ends the report for this evening. If there's questions, I'll try to answer them.
Are there any questions this evening for Mr. Gunlock? I don't see any, Bob. Thank you.
Welcome.
We will move then to committee reports, and we will begin with the Plan Commission. Mr. Linder?
Thank you, Mayor. Agenda item 9A1, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 15-859, annexing property to the city of Verona, Dane County, Wisconsin.
We have a motion by Mr. Linder. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Yurs. Mr. Linder?
The proposed annexation would add 51.09 acres of land to the city located south of County Highway PD. This includes 3 parcels in the town of Verona that were previously owned by the Mauer family. Epic Systems Corp. owns the parcels which are currently used as farmland. The long-term use of the property by the applicant is for an expansion of their existing office campus and stormwater management. There are no residents or electors within the area to be annexed, and the petition is considered a unanimous consent petition. The proposed annexation is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. The Plan Commission voted to recommend that the proposed annexation be approved. As required by state statute, the Department of Administration has reviewed the request and found the request to be in the public interest. Department of Administration recommends that the area of the annexation be modified to include an additional 0.78 acres of County Highway PD right-of-way in order to square off the area to be annexed and avoid creating a notch along the right-of-way. Staff recommends approval of the annexation with the revision requested by the Department of Administration.
We have a motion by Mr. Linder and a second by Mr. Yurs. We've heard the background. Are there questions or comments? Mr. Diaz?
Thank you. I'm abstaining from this vote.
Okay, we'll let the minutes reflect that. Mr. Linder?
Do we have to specifically include the 0.78 as part of the motion?
Mr. Burns?
The ordinance in your packet includes the updated legal description, so action on the ordinance as presented would include that additional 0.78.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion approving ordinance number 15-859 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries with Mr. Diaz abstaining. Is there anything else from the Plan Commission?
Nope.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. We'll move then next to the Finance Committee. Mr. McGilvray, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9B1, I'll make a motion to approve payment of the monthly bills in the amount of $1,982,357.81.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvray. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Linder. Mr. McGilvray, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the way of explanation, tonight I'd like to say, rather than go through three of the larger items, Mr. Burns informed us that about $1.5 million of the bills for this month were for the construction of the fire station, which would bring us to about $5.7 million of construction that we have paid for to this point, which is 60% of the overall construction of the $10.6 million of construction costs. If there's any further questions, if there's some specific bills, I could certainly address those.
Are there any, Mr. Linder, please?
I believe it was 60% of the construction costs, not including the design. Is that correct, Mr. Burns? Design and,
Yeah, the total project budget is 10.6 million. Of that, 9.5 million is the construction budget. The remainder would be architectural, engineers, equipment, other various items. So we're at 60% of the construction portion of the budget. We have some costs in those other areas as well, but the 60% number is specifically for the construction budget.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? If not, we do have a motion to approve the payment of bills. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries and the bills are paid. Mr. McGilvray, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9B2, I'll make a motion to approve the Economic Development Grant for Hop House Brewing Company, LLC, for a reserve Class B liquor license in the amount of $9,500.
We have a motion by Mr. McGilvray. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. I'll do Linder. Linder's on the Finance Committee, so Mr. Linder. Mr. McGilvray, please.
Thank you. In the way of explanation from the memorandum that we received from the council this evening, the Hop House Brewing Company, LLC, has applied for a reserve Class B liquor and Class B fermented malt beverage license to sell and serve beer and wine at their brew pub located at 231 West Verona Avenue. The owner plans to open the business in May. State statutes set the cost for the reserve Class B liquor license at $10,000. The city has an economic development grant program for these licenses to allow for a grant of $9,500. That would reduce the cost to a net of $500, which is the normal city license fee for the Class B liquor license. Staff recommends approval of the economic development grant contingent upon approval of the liquor license payment of $10,000 license fee.
You've heard the explanation. Are there questions? Mr. Touche. Okay. Mr. Touche will be abstaining from the vote. Further questions, comments? Mr. Yurs?
I just want to encourage, I was pleased to hear the positive feedback at the committee level on this, and I want to encourage all of us to vote for it. I think they're going to be a great addition to our downtown, and I know they are already planning on being a strong member of the community. So I hope we can give them our full support.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? If not, the motion is before you is to approve the Economic Development Grant for Hop House Brewing Company, LLC, for reserve Class B liquor license in the amount of $9,500. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Is there anything else in the Finance Committee?
Well, Mr. Mayor, we do have the owner of Hop House here. I wanted to provide him with the opportunity if he'd like to say anything, or if anyone has any questions they might want to ask him. It's on the spot, so don't feel like you have to.
And if you would, for the benefit of people that don't know you and those watching at home, if you would please identify yourself.
I'm Phil Hoax. I'm the owner of Hop House Brewing Company, and we are at 231 South Main Street, not West Verona Avenue.
Sorry.
I don't want you to go to the wrong place.
No, that's all right. I was reading off, thanks for the correction.
Yeah. So we have our equipment in the building. It's not hooked up yet. We're getting a sign in the next week or two, so we're moving along. If anybody knows how to paint, you guys can certainly come over and help me paint. But no, otherwise we're excited. We are already on the schedule to be at the beer festival over at the Ice Arena on the 20th of June. So we're excited about that. And yeah, we are busy, but we're excited to be part of the Verona community. So if you guys have any questions for me.
Are there any questions for Phil? Not seeing any. Thank you so much, and certainly we wish you the best.
Thank you.
I did want to go back on the previous motion. When I said that the motion carried, I neglected to say that Mr. Touche abstained on the vote, so we'll have that in the minutes. We will move then to Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. Mr. Touche, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9C1, I would like to make a motion to reject the bid as provided by Zenith Tech Incorporated.
We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Diaz. Mr. Touche?
Thank you. The city received one sealed bid for the Locust Bridge Drive widening project. Bid was submitted by Zenith Tech Incorporated of Waukesha, Wisconsin, in the amount of $1,085,703.45. The construction estimate prior to the bid opening without contingencies was $704,000. The Zenith Tech bid is approximately 54.8% over the construction estimate. Right now, the current plan is for us to, this summer, we've been advised to rebid this with some options for either completing the project this fall or early next spring.
You have heard the background information. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Gunlock, anything to add or not? I'm sorry.
I would just like to correct that the bid received was $1,089,703.45.
Thank you, Mr. Gallant.
Thank you. Ms. Ricky?
I just wanted to drive the point home that this is going to be a year, the construction would actually take place probably a year later than originally proposed. So just, but I don't think that the city should go forward with it with the added expense of 54.8% higher than estimated. I think that would be irresponsible for us to do, but I just want to inform the residents, especially who live across that bridge, that there will be another year of the existing bridge to deal with.
Any additional questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor of the motion, which is to reject the bid for the Locust Drive Bridge widening, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Touche?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9C2, I would like to make a motion to approve a professional service agreement for the redesign of North Nine Mound Road reconstruction project.
We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McGilvray. Mr. Touche?
This agreement is for engineering services to revise and prepare a plan and profile drawings for the proposed intersection relocation improvements. These improvements include the intersection of North Lights Road, North Nine Mound Road, and Cross Country Road. The estimate not to exceed fee for engineering services are $90,750.
You've heard the motion and the explanation. Are there questions, comments? Are there questions or comments? Not seeing any. The motion before you is to approve. I'm sorry, Mr. Diaz.
I'm sorry, I'm going to abstain from this vote.
Okay. Mr. Linder?
Just for clarification, the money is going to come from the TIF related to?
Correct.
Thank you.
Additional questions, comments? Seeing none, the motion before you is to approve a professional services agreement for the redesign of North Nine Mound Road, the reconstruction project. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion carries with Mr. Diaz abstaining.
Under
Mr. Touche?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 9C3, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution R-15-019, correcting the highway setback in the Scenic Ridge plat.
We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGilvray. Mr. Touche?
This document amends the Scenic Ridge plat to revise the US Highway 18/151 setback from 30 feet to 42 feet as required by the Wisconsin Administration Code Trans 233. When the plat for Scenic Ridge subdivision was prepared, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation noted that the right-of-way setback should be increased from 30 to 42 feet. However, this change was not incorporated on the record plat which is certified with Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Now that the discrepancy has been identified, Wisconsin Department of Transportation has asked the city to approve the resolution correcting the setback.
You've heard the motion and the background information. Questions or comments? No questions or comments. All those in favor of approval of resolution R-15-019 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Is there anything else from Public Works, Sewer and Water?
That is all.
Thank you, Mr. Touche. Then we will move to Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Mr. Yurs, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve an application for a special event permit for Verona Fest on July 31 and August 1, 2015 from Mike O'Brien of Ice Inc.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Touche. Mr. Yurs, please.
Thank you. Verona Fest is an annual festival to fundraise for the Eagles Nest Ice Arena. The event will be held Friday from 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. on Saturday. From 12 p.m. to 12 a.m., the Public Safety and Welfare Committee met earlier this evening and voted unanimously to recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Yurs. Are there questions, comments?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mr. Yurs.
this year is going to be a much more scaled down version of the event, and it's going to be geared more towards children and families.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor of approval of the special event permit for Verona Fest signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Yurs?
I'd like to make a motion to approve an application for a temporary Class B beer license for Verona Fest on July 31 and August 1, 2015 from the Verona Youth Hockey Association.
We have a motion by Mr. Yurs. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Touche. Mr. Yurs, please.
Thank you. In prior years, there was a beer tent at Verona Fest requiring a temporary Class B license. This year's beer sales will take place in the upstairs area of the ice rink. A licensed bartender will be on site at all times throughout the event, and the committee voted earlier this evening to unanimously recommend approval.
Again, you've heard the motion and the background information. Are there questions or comments? I'm not seeing any, so all those in favor of approval of the temporary Class B beer license for Verona Fest signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Is there anything else from Public Safety and Welfare Committee?
Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Yurs. Under new business, we have discussion and possible action regarding approval of operator licenses. Ms. Schofield, if you would, please.
We do not have any licenses for approval this evening.
No licenses. Okay, we are on to agenda item number 11, which is announcements. Are there any announcements this evening? Mr. Steiner's not here, so seeing no announcements, last order of business would be adjournment. We have a motion by Mr. Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Yurs. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.